Hello everyone. So in today's video we will discuss about government budget and the economy. So let us start with budget firstly. So what is budget? See, budget is an annual statement. Annual statement of which shows us the receipts and expenditure of government. That from what sources the government gets income and on what things government has to incur the expenditure. Like in our day-to-day life, we make budget at our homes also, right? According to it, we plan our expenditure and our income also, right? So government budget, it is determined through in the physical policy, or you can say the fiscal year. See, like for example, in accountancy, we have is fiscal financial year that starts from 1st April to 31st March. Similarly, government also has its own policy, its own year that we call it as fiscal year. So fiscal year also has the same timeline. Now let us know that is it actual value or it is planned or actual. So this is only planned. Means the government is planning on what things will it get the income and on what things it has to incur the expenditure. So let us start with the objectives of government. That what is the need? Why the government needs to make its budget? For what the government needs the budget policy? So the first point is reallocation of resources. Reallocation of resources. Okay, suppose we have two industries. The one is khadi industry. Okay. Second one is liquor industry. Government wants that the investment on the liquor industry must reduce. So what the government will do? It will impose taxes on it. Automatically the production of liquor will decrease. And it wants that khadi's production be increased and the consumers also be increased. So government will decrease its taxes and increase the subsidies. So how will the government do? See, taxes is the revenue policy of government, right? And subsidies is the expenditure policy of government. So with the help of this revenue and expenditure policy, the government will frame its budget accordingly. Now there are many setups, like for example, when we are saying about defense and law and order. In these sectors, these are non-profitable in nature, right? Because of their non-profitable nature, private companies do not engage in it. Because of this sector, government has to undertake all these undertakings. So government has to plan accordingly what expenditure should be incurred and what income will it gain by investing in all these sectors. So government has to plan its budget according to this. Now let us come to the next point, that is reducing the regional disparity is all reducing regional disparity. See, in any economy we are having is some sectors are backward and some are upgraded. Like for example, we are saying urban sector, urban area and rural area. There is a vast difference between these. I'm having certain factories in urban areas, firm and corporations, right? But rural area lack of any kind of development. So government aims to reduce this gap. How can it reduce? Like government needs that investment must be there in rural area. So government aims to maximize the investment through tax concessions and through many other incentives. Okay, that whosoever any producer may invest in the rural area or in the backward area, that producer will get certain concessions on it. It is a very common term, that is SEZ, that is special economic zones. These are that when any industry is set up in backward region, they will get certain concessions. For example, they will get as the electricity charges will be reduced, and even the water supply is water supply charges are reduced to much extent, and the labor laws, there is flexibility in the labor laws. So all this is through the budget policy of government. Now the next point is reducing inequalities in wealth. See, reducing inequalities in wealth means we are having two subtype of people, rich and poor. Government aims to minimize this gap between them. How will it do so? Through their taxation policy. See, how can it do? It will impose greater taxes on richer one and less taxes on the poor. See, they will give them subsidies like free ration cards, right? These are granted to them so that this gap gets eliminated to much extent. Now let us discuss the next point, that is management of public enterprises. Now, as I have told earlier, that government owns many private sector undertakings and it has to manage it accordingly. Public sector undertakings. So this is to be managed by government. So government has to plan its budget accordingly. Now let us move forward with the next point, that is economic growth. How can the government engage in the growth of the economy? See, economic growth can be through infrastructure, right, and any kind of investment. The government can lay infrastructure like roadways, railways. So by constructing these, they can engage many employees here, right? They will get the employment. So with the rise in employment, our growth of economy will increase, and the factor of economic growth is GDP. So if our GDP will increase, that means growth of economy is there. So by laying down infrastructure, the GDP will increase automatically. The growth of economy will be there. And in any kind of investment, see, there is suppose any kind of producer is there to invest, he will demand that I want certain tax concessions. So government will aim that to give the producer the maximum taxation so that he or she can invest. That will ultimately give the rise in the economic growth. Now the next is economic stability. See, economic stability means that prices do not fluctuate. It is the economy is free from the fluctuations in price. So how can government do this? It is through their revenue policy and the expenditure policy. See, suppose our AD is greater, that is government's expenditure is greater in case of inflation. That is, when inflation is there, our AD is greater, that is our government expenditure is more than that required. So when our expenditure is greater, government will reduce this expenditure. How can it reduce its expenditure? By reducing its subsidies. So when government will reduce the subsidies or increase its taxes, government can aim to reduce this inflation. Okay? And in case our AD is less, if our AD is less, that is in case of deflation. If deflation is there, that is expenditure of government is less than what required, the government is taking its income more. So that is, government has to increase its expenditure. So how can government increase its expenditure? Either through the taxes. Taxes must be reduced and subsidies must be increased, because subsidies are a part of their expenditure, taxes are a part of their revenue. So if their revenue will decrease, automatically this will sit by itself. Now the last but not the least point, it is employment generation. See, as discussed earlier, if the government lays down infrastructure, okay, with the growth in infrastructure, employees, the citizens will get work, and if work will be there, that is employment is generated, right? So if employment is generated, our GDP is increasing, that we have discussed in the economic growth also. So government aims to maximize its infrastructure to generate employment. So all these were the objectives of government budget, and I hope you understood. Thank you.